Alright, our next project is changing the clutch slave cylinder. I've been finding that the clutch is a little harder to disengage when I press the pedal down. It's a little harder shifting, and one of the things I was told online doing some research is that often the clutch slave cylinder, you know, just being 35 odd years old, gets a little not so responsive, and I think it's probably time to change it out. So what I've done here is I've taken off the air hose from the air filter over to the air intake. So I've taken that off to give me some space here to work, and then we're going to go right into where that clutch slave cylinder is, which I'm going to show you shortly. It's just right down in there. So if we take a look, I'll put my finger on it. It's right this thing here. Alright, that's the slave cylinder, and the hose that comes up, that's the clutch line. And this one has a heat shield on it here, and it's attached to a bracket right here. Now the way it's attached, there's no way to get those screws off because they're bolted on the other side under the heat shield. So I'm gonna have to take this whole bracket off, and it's got a couple of screws. Let's see if we can show you what those are. Alright, don't know if you can see it, but there is a screw down here, and then there is another screw underneath. So we got to take those off. That'll take the bracket off, the mounting bracket, and hopefully the slave cylinder will come off along with it, and then we'll take off the heat shield and take it off the bracket, and hopefully that will work. So here's a close-up of the slave cylinder. Underneath, if you can see the hose going in, there's a lower bolt and an upper bolt. The upper one is the one we want to loosen. It's attached to the slave cylinder, and it's a 14 millimeter. So we're going to try to loosen that up, and hopefully it will come off. It's been almost 35 years, I assume, since that's been put on, so I hope that we don't run into any problems, Lord willing. I just want to mention that I soaked that bolt there in penetrating oil, just sprayed on penetrating oil for the last couple days, just to hopefully that will help loosen it up. So we'll see. So we've got the hose disconnected. It came off pretty easily. Of course, once we got it going, then I could just take it off using my hands to loosen it. Of course, I'm wearing gloves because this clutch fluid is caustic stuff. So next we're going to take off the bracket. There's a 15 millimeter bolt there up on top. I'm going to do that. I've shoved some paper down there, some thick grocery bag paper, just to catch any drips that might come from that clutch fluid. I don't want it to, you know, corrode any of the metal. So I've got my 15 millimeter ratchet on there. It's one of these pivoting ones, so I can grab a hold of it here. I'll show you how it works. So it's a pivoting one. We just put that right in there, and then we're gonna just start unscrewing that. All right, and there's another 15 millimeter bolt underneath, and it's a little harder to get at, but it's coming. Alright, so we've got the slave cylinder removed now. I mean, it is still attached to the bracket, which also has a heat shield attached to it. So we are going to have to take that slave cylinder off the bracket. There are two screws holding it in place. And again, the bolts are around this side of it. If If you can see one there and one there, we're gonna have to take those off, and then we'll be able to get it all disassembled and put the new slave cylinder back. Alright, we got it all detached. We got the slave cylinder, we got the bracket, and we got the heat shield. And so that's what it looks like, all separated out. The two bolts that were holding the slave cylinder to the bracket were 13mm. I needed a deep socket wrench to get into there. And yeah, and the heat shield, it was just kind of held in place with those bolts, and it just kind of came right out. So we have success, at least at this part of the project.